Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. This is Paperbacks Galore and I'm Angela. Today I'm going to be talking about the 24 books that I want to prioritize in 2024. Originally I was going to make this a reading goals video plus the 24 books, but I honestly only have one goal, and that is to read as many books off of my physical TBR as I can. Last year I read 84 books, which was really great for me, but like 60% of those books were audiobooks from my library books in physical form, library books in ebook form, and I have literally 100 books on my physical TBR, and I think I only read like 25 of them maybe. So I'd really like to prioritize actually reading these books, well, the ones up there that I haven't read yet. And sometimes I feel like it's cheating to like listen to an audiobook of a book that I already own, which is really stupid because a lot of my favorite booktubers do that and I never think that they're, cheating or something. So I'm gonna try to listen to audiobooks of books that I own and immersion read them, and then I can listen to them while I'm cleaning and working out, etc. So my goal is to read 50 of the 100 books that I have on my TBR and hopefully not acquire too many more books. I'm thinking of not buying any books until my birthday in September. Let's see how that goes. So I'm just gonna give a quick and dirty little synopsis for each of these, probably poorly worded and probably very vague because I don't know the full synopses of a lot of books. I like going into them surprised, and then I'm gonna tell you why they're on this list. So first up we have Inferno by Dante. This is a classic, obviously. I believe it's literally, a poem. Is it an epic poem, perhaps? Yeah, so this is on my list purely because of Hosier. I love Hosier so much. He is literally like the best straight man that we have in pop culture, really. But his latest album, Unreal Unearthed, is actually very much inspired by Inferno by Dante, so I went out and bought this solely for that reason, and I'd really like to read this in order to delve deeper into his album and the lyrics and the themes, because all I really know about this is it has to do with like hell and certain like circles of hell that are based on like sins. So I'm hoping to better understand his artistry, and also I love reading classics, so might as well read another beloved classic. Going 2 for 2 in the area of classics, we have Kindred by Octavia E. Butler. This is a kind of like a sci-fi classic, she says uncertainly. I have no idea when Octavia Butler wrote these books. I'm gonna guess 1979, because that's what it says in the front. All I know about this book is that we have a black woman in modern times, so maybe the 70s, and she somehow goes back in time to the times of slavery in the United States, and she has to, I don't know, try to survive, try to figure out what the hell is going on. I feel like everyone who reads Octavia E. Butler like loves her, and I want to read more like black classics, and I also want to read more sci-fi because I am currently not a sci-fi girly at all, but I am a historical fiction girly, so I feel like this could be a really good entrance into the world of sci-fi, and as I said, I fucking love classics, so this is another classic to read. Next up is A Tale for the Time Being. A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, and all I know about this one is there's 2 characters that we're following. One is in Japan, I believe one is in either the United States or Canada, and there's a Japanese girl who has been experiencing like bullying at school, and she like writes about it and puts it in some sort of container, like a lunchbox or something, and it somehow gets across the world to this other woman living in North America. That sounds like a slightly incorrect synopsis. A Hello Kitty lunchbox washes up on the beach. Tucked inside is the diary of a 16-year-old Japanese girl, and Ruth is a writer who finds the lunchbox and suspects that it is debris from Japan's 2011 tsunami. There we go. This one, as soon as I heard the synopsis, I just was like, yeah, I have to own that. I have to read it. I don't know why. I'm not a huge contemporary fiction reader, but something about this just made me feel like it was going to be kind of weird and emotional and just gripping, and I've heard the writing's amazing. So I'm really excited for this. Next up is a fantasy book that I really want to read in the winter, and it's The Bear and the Nightingale by Catherine Arden. This is based on Russian folklore. It's very wintry. I believe it's YA. I think it's going to have beautiful writing. I think it's going to be atmospheric and lyrical and character driven. And I love fantasy so much, I need to prioritize it. And if I like it, I will hopefully purchase the next two in this trilogy. But this is the only one I own, and I'm really hoping to read this within the next couple of months. So if you haven't seen me reading it in my wrap-up videos, feel free to yell at me. Next up, we have a book that I know little to nothing about. It's called Disoriental. It is translated from French into English. It's won / been nominated for a variety of awards. I had never heard of it before. I found this at Half Price Books when I was visiting Indianapolis. Unfortunately, I don't have Half Price Books where I live, which sucks. If you have a Half Price bookstore in your area and you haven't been for some reason, go check it out. It's like the best bookstore. Yeah, I have no idea what this is about. I believe this is about people who are fleeing Iran to France, and I believe it's contemporary fiction. I'm looking forward to reading more translated lit. I am literally a translation grad student, so I really should be prioritizing translated lit more. And I would love to read this in French, however, it's really hard and expensive to get French language books where I live, so I just picked this one up. Next up is a romance book that my really close friend actually read recently and loved, and it's Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I have enjoyed all of the Christina Lauren books that I've read so far, so this is probably the most popular one that I've seen. And I think it's a friends to lovers slash second chance love story trope. And honestly, I'm obsessed with that because that is literally my life, my story. A lot of people think that second chance romance and friends to lovers are boring, and to those people I say, what's wrong with you? Next up, we have an iconic book. It is The Fifth Season by N.K. Jemisin. This book seems to be a cross between fantasy, sci-fi, and climate fiction. And I've heard that it has a really interesting choice where the author writes in second person, so like talking to the reader, saying you. I have no idea how I'm going to feel about that, but I've heard that this is brilliant, and I'm just hoping that I feel intelligent enough to read this at some point soon, but I'm definitely going to try to prioritize this in 2024. That's the whole point of this video, but you know what? There you go. In keeping with the fantasy, we have Assassin's Apprentice by Robin Hobb. I was so happy to see these editions of these books at my local Barnes & Noble where I work. So I got these for 50% off, which is the best thing about working at Barnes & Noble. I have heard nothing but amazing things about Robin Hobb. I'm obsessed with the look of these books. I really haven't read that much like classic, like medieval sword fighting kind of fantasy books, so I'm really hoping I love this. I've heard it's very character driven and emotional, and I have the other books in the trilogy, so I'm hoping to at least read this one this year. Next up is The Colony by Audrey McGee. I believe this is a historical fiction that takes place in the 70s or 80s on an island off the coast of Ireland, and I believe we're exploring imperialism. On the back it talks about a thoughtfully calibrated commentary about the nature and balance of power between classes, cultures, and genders. So I have really enjoyed all the fiction I've read by Irish authors, and I have Irish ancestry myself, which a lot of people do, but whatever. I really like Irish fiction, so that's why I put this book on the list, because I kind of forget about it sometimes, but I think sometimes when I'm in the mood for contemporary fiction, I'm gonna reach for this one. Next is the only memoir on this list, and it's I Am by Maggie O'Farrell, and all you need to know about this one is it's her memoir through the lens of 17 brushes with death that she's experienced in her life, which sounds terrifying and very fascinating. Next up is The Namesake by Jhumpa Lahiri. I had to read Interpreter of Maladies, which is a short story collection, when I was in high school, and me and all of my classmates really enjoyed it. Jhumpa Lahiri is a very beloved and accoladed author. Is that a word? She's received many accolades, and I believe this is a story about Indian immigrants moving to the US, and has to do with like family and the immigrant experiences and the tangled ties between generations. So another kind of general fiction that I hope I will gravitate towards soon. Next up is The Poppy War by R.F. Kuang. I have given R.F. Kuang a 3.5 star and a 5 star, and I'm hoping that this series will be a 5 star for me. All I know about this is that it's military fantasy. I believe it's either set in China or set in, a world inspired by China, and I'm very intrigued. Next up is the fantasy book that I've probably had on my radar for the most amount of years, and that's Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. Obviously, Brandon Sanderson is a huge force in the world of fantasy, and I have not read anything by him, and that is the year that I do. I literally have no idea what this book is about, but look how floppy it is. Like, oh my god, look at that. I'm so excited to read this, literally just because of how floppy it is. Like, not really, but come on. Next up is the only other nonfiction on this list, and that is Unmasking Autism by Dr. Devin Price. And I believe this has a lot of like anecdotes from autistic people, combined with like research and like facts just about unmasking autism, which, if you don't know what that means, like masking is kind of this subconscious thing that autistic people do to make life easier for them in a society that's not built for them. So kind of like masking or hiding their autistic traits and trying to fit in with holistic people. And I think this book is going to explore like how that's really harmful for autistic people and how people's lives have changed when they've tried to unmask, things like that. So I'm really excited to read this. Next up is another classic, and that's Agnes Grey by Anne Bronte. Anne Bronte is the only Bronte sister that I haven't read from yet. This is a short one. I have really no idea what it's about, but I'm hoping that I like Anne as much as I like her sisters and their books, and hopefully it's not a drag to read, because sometimes the classics are a little rough. Maggie O'Farrell gets 2 books on this list because I still have not read The Marriage Portrait by Maggie O'Farrell. I literally bought this like huge like UK paperback version of this book. I think the cover is stunning, and I think this is an historical fiction set in Italy in the 1500s, and I believe that we know at the beginning of the book that this main character is going to die, and that's all I know. I really loved Maggie O'Farrell's book Hamnet, like many people, and I really have not heard anyone love this, so I'm a little worried, but other people's opinions should not dictate my own reading that much, so I hope that I love this. Another classic on the list is North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, who knows. I watched this limited series like 8 years ago, and all I remember was one scene at the end where they kiss, so it's a romance, but I think it also talks about class and industrialism in England, and I hope that I love it. Next up is The River of Silver by S.A. Chakraborty. I love the David Budd trilogy. I gave all 3 of the books 5 stars, and I just haven't picked this up yet. This is like a collection of short stories about the characters. It's like a shorter book, and I think I've just been nervous that I'm not going to remember all the details because I'm a very forgetful person and reader, but I just need to do it anyway because I can always look stuff up. Next up is Legendary by Stephanie Garber. I read Caraval last year and I enjoyed it. I really loved the atmosphere and how the book made me feel. And I'm putting this on this list to motivate me to read it. I just need to like skim read the last part of the Caraval book just so I can go into the sequel because I do not remember very much, but I really liked, again, the vibes, the atmosphere, and sometimes I just want like an easy brain candy kind of YA fantasy book, and I think this is the only YA on this list. Next up is a chonky book, and that is The Love Songs of W.E.B. Du Bois. I found this at my local library book sale. Like, they have this room where it's just used books that people have donated, and they're all $1, $2, or $3. This was like $2 or $3, and full price this book is, you know, like $29. So an incredible deal. All I know about this book is that it is like a multi-generational saga. I believe it's a black family, maybe in the South. I believe it has to do with slavery. Maybe not. But I'm super excited because I love multi-generational family stories, and I've heard amazing things about this. I think I'm just intimidated by the length of it, but I'm putting it on this list to motivate me because I can also listen to the audiobook to help me kind of get through it since it's such a long book, and I hope I love it. I'll be sad if I don't love it. Alright, we have 4 left. So next up is Two on a Tower by Thomas Hardy. Thomas Hardy is an amazing writer. He is so underrated, I swear. I love the way he writes love stories, and I believe this is about star-crossed lovers, and it's such a short little classic, and it's such a beautiful copy, and I just want to read this so bad, but I'm always so intimidated by new classics. So Angela of the future, read this. Next we have Giovanni's Room by James Baldwin. This is an iconic classic. I believe this is about a love story between 2 men in Paris. One man is an American man, the other is perhaps Parisian or American, I'm not sure, but I think it's like a very tragic love story because it takes place in the 1950s, so obviously not a safe time period for queer people, and I'm prepared for this one to break my heart. Second to last on this list is Us Against You by Frederick Bachman. I read Beartown last year and gave it 5 stars, and I picked this one up and then just never really got to it. I think I'm scared that the sequel is gonna be boring because it doesn't really feel like a book that needed a sequel or needed to be a series, but I know people love these, so I know I'm gonna love it. I'm scared. So I actually might start this very soon and use the audiobook to help me read this, which I'm allowed to do. I don't know why that feels so wrong to me. But yeah, I'd hope to start this soon because this series takes place in Sweden where it's very cold and it's winter where I live, so I like reading books in the seasons that they're set, so I really hope I enjoy this. And last but certainly not least, and probably the most intimidating book, and probably the book that I have the highest hopes for and the strongest fears for, is Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I read Piranesi 1 or 2 years ago, and I gave it 4.5 stars. I think she's a very talented and imaginative writer. And this book has been described as as if you're reading a Charles Dickens novel, but there's magic. And that to me is literally the perfect synopsis for a book ever, because I love classics. You know, I love Charles Dickens books and I love fantasy books, and the idea of reading those combined just seems like it's going to be perfect for me. I have seen people hate this because it's like too pretentious or too long or something, but like I'm not mad at some footnotes. I'm not mad at some pretentiousness. So this is hurting my hand to hold up. Um, but I don't know when I'm going to read this. Maybe the fall, because it's kind of an academic kind of book, and dark academia is a good time for fall. Don't quote me on that. I don't know if this is dark academia. If you've read this, please let me know if you liked it. But yeah, this is my like holy grail of like, please be 5 stars for me, please be a new favorite book. Those are all the books on my 24 books for 24 list. I messed that up, but you know what I meant. I'm probably gonna do a video next January or next December checking back on if I actually read these. I hope that I have read all of them or most of them. We will see. I am notoriously bad at sticking to TBRs, but I have a whole year to read these and I believe in myself. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a lovely week. Bye!